Good evening. Let me check my time. So I am on Pacific time today, like many of you, which is exciting actually, 5 p.m. for a class. Anyways, welcome to all our seekers of wisdom, spirituality, and poetry. On behalf of Jay and I, from Bethlehem Center, from Process and Faith, from Cobb Institute, and from the Interfaith Center of Arkansas, we are thrilled to have you here. Last week, we talked about Actually, I don't remember what did we talk about last week. Maybe Jay, we talked about faith,
Justice and love. Justice and love.
justice and love. Yes, love and justice as an outward or a public expression of love. I remember that now, and that was beautiful. Thank you so much for being here last week. We do send you an email every week with the poems. And I apologize that last week we did not send you all the poems or the letter that I promised you from Honorable Annabelle Imbertuck, and we will get them to you this coming Friday. So today we are talking about three spiritual qualities, and we'll start with G for gratitude in the first half of class, and then we will do the other two, hospitality and connections, in the second half. So about gratitude. So I'll give you two poems on gratitude and a brief introduction before we go to our teacher, Dr. McDaniels. So gratitude is, of course, being grateful to others, but also maintaining a grateful perspective. One thing I've really enjoyed when I've been reading about gratitude is Lakota author and activist. His name is Doug Goodfeather. And when he talks about gratitude, he talks about gratitude and generosity at the same time. And he says that they're very similar virtues. They only differ because gratitude is an internal characteristic of heart and mind, whereas generosity is its external expression, or generosity is the way gratitude is expressed to the world. We are not covering G for generosity in this session, so I thought I would bring generosity along with gratitude today. And it's really important to remember because when we engage with the world from a place of gratitude, it's literally the difference between trying to make something happen versus allowing something to happen organically, naturally. So it's the difference between effort and effortlessness. So let's start with this poem from Hafiz Shirazi on gratitude and effortlessness. Hafiz says, follow my tracks. Follow my tracks in the sand that lead beyond thought and space. Follow my tracks in the sand that lead beyond thought and space. For I can see deep down that you're really a golden bird that needs to dance. With your spirit enraptured and ascending in the currents of light, join me. Join me with your hands, with your wings, with your hoofs or fins in my sublime applause. Join me in the pure atmosphere of gratitude for life. Gratitude for life. It's such a core concept, gratitude. Why? Because it's the foundation of joy, contentment, well-being. And when I read especially Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, I see that there are so many poems, so many verses of gratitude. So I've been thinking why it's such a core concept. And one of the things that comes to me is that a person cannot exist in a place of fear and a place of true gratitude at the same time. That's why gratitude becomes a foundation of joy and contentment and also a doorway to divine. If you look around you at people and if you look closely, you will see that people are happy because they're grateful. Anytime I talk about gratitude, it reminds me of my grandmother. Jay knows that because I always talk about her when I talk about gratitude. There is an Arabic phrase, word called Alhamdulillah, which means all praise to God. And she would use the word Alhamdulillah with literally every breath of her life. If we ask her, Grandma, how are you? Instead of saying, I'm fine or I'm good, she would say, Alhamdulillah. How was your day? Alhamdulillah. Did you have dinner? Alhamdulillah. Did you enjoy your dinner? Alhamdulillah. She literally lived in a state of gratitude. I'm not sure if she read or heard this Rumi phrase in which Maulana Rumi says that we are guests on this great good earth, and our every breath should be the one of gratitude to its host. Whether she heard it or not, she definitely practiced it by emanating gratitude from her. So, gratitude could be a verb, which is being thankful to others around you, being thankful for others around you, but it could also be a noun, living in a state of gratitude, being around people like my grandmother, like my teacher, my Sufi master. And you will note, and I'm sure there are many in your life too. And you will notice they have a very calming, peaceful, non anxious presence. And when you're around them, you feel peace. They emanate peace. So I will give to Jay with this poem of gratitude about such people who live in a state of gratitude. And this is a poem by Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. And Maulana says, be grateful for your life. Be grateful for your life and every detail of it. Your face will come to shine like a sun, and everyone who sees it will be made glad and peaceful. Persist in gratitude, and you will slowly become one with the sun of love. And love will shine through you. Love will shine through you. It's all healing joy. The path of gratitude is not for children. It is a path of tender heroes, of the heroes of tenderness, who, for whatever happens, keep burning on the altar of their hearts, their flame of adoration. The path of gratitude is not for children, it's a path of tender heroes, of the heroes of tenderness, who, whatever happens, keep burning on the altar of their hearts, their flame of adoration. Jay, on to you with that, with our teaching, with your teaching on gratitude.
Well, first things first, I really would like to know your grandmother and what a remarkable person she is, what a remarkable presence. And I think of my grandmother also. And one thing that I feel grateful for are teachers. Teachers isn't exactly the right word, but it's the example of their lives that I'm grateful for. Their life is their teaching. Their spirit is their teaching. I'd like to say a word, excuse me, about gratitude and grace. And I don't know whether the word grace is limited to Christianity. I get the word grace from my own Christian tradition, but I don't covet that word. I hope every tradition has a way of naming what I want to get at. I used to think of grace as something given by God, and I still do. But I want to use the grace as something, the word grace, to say it's something given by the world too. That we receive grace kind of all the time from things we don't create. They're just given. And we find ourselves in their presence. And we're thankful. I'm thankful. So I would like to name some things I'm grateful for, some kinds of grace. One is the grace of rivers. I grew up close to a river, the Guadalupe River in the hill country of Texas. And she's a she. And she's beautiful. And I learned to swim in her. And I remember how she smelled. I'm grateful for the grace of rivers. Here's another one. The grace of humor. I am grateful for things that are funny in a kindly way, but the gift of humor, the grace of humor. Maybe you've been in a situation that was a little too burdensome, a little heavy. And then all of a sudden, who knows why? From where, it's hard to say. But you received the gift of humor. And it had a lightening effect. It freed you. Here's another kind of grace. The grace of food. When you share a meal with someone, and you talk over that meal, and you enjoy that meal, you receive the grace of food. Of course, it involves the preparation and the ingredients and all of that, but the food itself, right there on the table, is something that brings you together with that other person. There's a grace of food. Here's another kind. It's the grace of our bodies. The simple act of breathing, being able to breathe. I didn't choose that. I didn't create that. I was born into that. The grace of breathing. Here's another one. The grace of stars. How many of us have seen some of these images from the James Webb telescope? And we realize that we're small, but included in something so vast, so incredible, so amazing, so beautiful. The grace of stars. Now, those kinds of grace, those various kinds of graces, you can say, I can say, they're the faces of God in our lives. I can say that. But I want to give credit to the universe too. I just want to say thank you. Thank you. And you don't exactly know what you're saying it to, but you want to say thank you. There's a final kind of grace I want to mention, and it's the grace of creative transformation. So there are things that happen in your life and things that happen in my life, you don't will them. Sometimes they're very difficult. You wish they were otherwise. The suffering of a loved one, your own suffering. But the funny thing is, or that sometimes you can take those things and you can turn them into something from which you learn, and you become a better person because of them. So that's the grace of creative transformation, being able to transform what happens into something good, something productive, something beautiful, something tender, something tender. So I wanted to link gratitude and grace, thus understood. So Sophia, that's my response to your poems and into this first theme. So let's open it up and let's see if some others have some comments that you want to make or some thoughts you have about gratitude and the role of gratitude in life. Anybody have something they want to share, something they want to say?
I'm raising my hand. If
Yeah,
nobody
Dan,
else
go
is
ahead.
speaking. Okay. The maple tree in our backyard that is fluorescent in color at this time of year, a place of just natural gratitude and a gift from the world. This morning, in contrast, I got caught in traffic, a small thing, but was late for a meeting, which made me late for the next meeting. You know how that goes. And even in that very mundane kind of a situation, we're not talking about deep suffering. We're talking about an annoyance, really, an inconvenience for the person who was waiting, which I felt very badly about. But it was not easy, I'm ashamed to say. It's a confession, Jay. It was not easy for me to access gratitude when there was this unexpected traffic jam. That was a significant delay, and I knew I was keeping somebody waiting. So, Sophia or Jay, I'd be interested to hear from either of you. Um, when you do find yourself spun out by life, and again, that's just a mundane example, but when you find yourself spun out by the events of life, how do you find the path back to that state of being grateful? That place of tranquility that Sophia was describing. And this is a question for either or both of
you. Sophia, you go first.
Let me unmute myself. That is such an important question, Dan. Firstly, I honestly think that I cannot survive without gratitude as a spiritual practice, because it keeps me grounded, if I may say. It helps me move forward every day. When we see all this suffering outside in the world, and then we all see things in our own life that are not going well with our own children and traffic and families. um, it's really, really hard to keep going in a non-anxious state unless you have a spirit, unless I have a spiritual practice. And over time, after years of challenges and struggles and uncertainty, I have realized that what keeps me grounded is maintaining a grateful perspective in my life. That even if I don't have a car, at least I can call an Uber. Or if I don't have a freshly cooked meal right now, at least I can walk outside and buy something. I mean, among everything which is not going well, there is still so much that I got it right in my life. There is so much more I have than what I can deserve. If nothing else, than the beauty of the light that bathes my room in the morning, and the birds that I hear singing in the morning, and knowing that I can still breathe and I can still walk. I had an injured knee for the last 3 weeks. When I came to Berkeley last time, I injured my knee, and I'm back again in 3 weeks. And I was really upset in the beginning that I can't walk the way I have always used to the kitchen and make my cup of tea. And then I realized I still have another knee. So I think what I have done with my life is that I just have stopped complaining to myself and looking at the things that I have. And some of them are things just like the ability to see and breathe and being in presence of you all and being able to share and absorb and just expressing gratitude for them all the time. Just like my grandmother. I'm not saying I do that, but I try and I practice. And the more I practice, that's interesting actually. The more there's some things which has a long-term impact. There's some practices in our life which have a long-term impact. You don't see the effect right away. But with gratitude, you see the effect right away. The more you practice gratitude, the immediately you see how differently it makes you feel, how it grounds you, makes you calm and peaceful as you breathe in gratitude, as you breathe out gratitude, just makes you go away from an uncertain place, anxious place to a state of being grounded. And you get to experience grace when you are in that state. So the impact is so immediate, like it's like instant gratification, that it makes me want to practice more and more. And the more I practice, the more I'm grounded. So that's my practice, and I'm sure all of you have your own way of doing that.
Terry, you have a comment?
Yeah, this reminds me of a woman that I used to serve and be around, and she was part of a congregation years and years ago, and she really struggled, and talked to me about the fact she got really tired of being tired and upset and angry, and she for some reason started a gratitude journal. And she said there were some days when she would get up in the morning and for a week, or 2 weeks, she'd have just the same three things. I got up, I was breathing, I have a job. Like, just sometimes that was all she could find. But over time, and I'll never forget her talking about that, because she began to shift. Her attitude shifted, her energy shifted. She became hopeful and did some amazing things after her retirement, because she had shifted from complaining all the time into gratitude. It was a really
I think gratitude journals really help a lot of people. It's a very good practice. I did a little bit of that preparing for tonight. I just started thinking about the things I was really grateful for. Nita, you had a comment. Would you make it?
There, I think I'm unmuted now. Yeah. I just, I guess one of my practices is a deep awareness. It's about perspective, like Sophia was talking about. And I just give myself permission and grace to hold deep sorrow and joy in my heart at the same time. And it helps me to remain grateful even when things are tough.
Dan, I'll answer you. I consider myself a novice in the art of gratitude. So I can't speak with authority, but I know what I try to do. I meditate every morning as best I can. Quiet breathing in Zen style. It's to anchor the day. And I do it to get perspective, because I'm so busy. And as soon as the day kicks in, there's all kinds of agendas and sometimes resentments. I won't pretend that inwardly I'm a saint, but you like Sophia says, you need to get perspective. I do. And I do a lot of praying, reaching out into the universe, into God. The only other thing I want to say, Dan, is the God in whom I believe doesn't require that we be grateful all the time. The God in whom I believe accepts our humanity. It's okay to be finite. It's okay to be limited.
I appreciate this.
It's okay to be imperfect, so to speak. I believe in a really spacious God who accepts us in our finitude. So we don't have to be spiritual saints. Just be yourself. Gary. Gary, are you there?
I just was cut out for a moment. I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. We can't see you, but we can hear you. Now we can see you, but we can't hear you.
I've got both now, right? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a bounce from Dan's comment, but again, very minor. How sometimes what it has been experienced as an irritation suddenly shifts to become a blessing to be grateful for. And the other month, I wrote a very short poem that starts off saying, "A raucous chorus of crows and gulls proclaim the too early morning. I rise to shut the window, closing off the noise of the waking world. But as I return to bed, the dawn song lingers in my soul, and I find myself muttering with a quiet joy, 'Blessed are you, Lord our God, creator of the music of the world. Thank you for the morning's music.' A prayer that hovers over me and gently rocks me back to sleep."
Thank you.
The music.
Thank you.
And
All
it doesn't
right.
always feel like it's my doing, like somehow I get myself together. It's suddenly the
Yeah.
event itself transforms, and I'm transformed by suddenly experiencing it in a different way.
Isn't
And
that,
instead of just annoyance and irritation and wanting to hide under the pillows, suddenly it's a blessing. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. Sophia,
Yeah,
take
let's
us further.
so in this half we'll do two spiritual practices, and we thought they're very interconnected and we can cover them together. And first is the letter C for connections, and the second is H for hospitality. So let's start with connections. It's literally amazing how our minds are always thinking in terms of divisions or barriers or separating one from another or compartmentalizing. I think it could be a personal habit, but it's also very cultural as well. The history of our world is plagued by dualism: mind versus body, nature versus nurture, um, science versus religion, male versus female, us versus them, I versus you, all of that. So this practice of connections is really important in the sense that it erases such arbitrary and sometimes unnecessary distinctions. I won't say all of them are unnecessary, but quite a lot we get stuck in those compartments, which we really don't need. And this practice of connecting with each other, it reinforces holistic thinking and helps us become aware of how we are first ourselves interconnected within our own spiritual, emotional, and mental aspects, and how we are interconnected to everything and every being around us. I was reading our book for spirituality and website and practice website, and they talked about one definition of spirituality is the art of making connections. And I find it very beautiful that spirituality is the art of making connections, which is relationships actually primarily. Relationships create the spiritual web of our life. And according to many religious traditions, our deepest values are expressed through these relationships, these essential bonds. And all these spiritual practices that we have been working on: attention, beauty, enthusiasm, zeal, zest, gratitude, hospitality, love, compassion, generosity, forgiveness. Our relationships provide us the training ground to practice those spiritual values. And that's what they mean by when they say spirituality is the art of making connections. Because relationship is where we get to practice our spiritual practices. I picked this poem by Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi because I find it really interesting, as it tends to suggest that separation is all an illusion. And Maulana says in this poem, "Neither I am me, nor you are you. Neither I am me, nor you are you, nor you are me. Also I am me, and you are you, and you are me. We have become one in such a way that I am confused whether I am you or you are me." I love it so much. I'm going to do it one more time. Neither I am me, nor you are you, nor you are me. But I am me, and you are you, and you are me. We have become one in such a way that I am confused whether I am you or you are me. This is brilliant. I mean, every time I read it, I just get drowned in this poem. So moving on, making connection of C and H, of C for connections and H for hospitality. A few words on hospitality before we go to Dr. McDaniels. So we're practicing hospitality anytime we make connections with others and then we welcome them into our lives. That includes friends and strangers and enemies as well. An open house reveals certain things about us. It tells us how well disposed we are towards others, how we are focused on positive, or whether we believe this universe is a friendly place or not. This practice of hospitality requires us that we cross boundaries and dismantle some of the barriers that might be erected by our society to keep the other out of our life. To be hospitable, we have to accept some level of pluralism in our world. And those of you like me who are involved in interreligious dialogue, hospitality is very, very important. I mean, hospitality is actually the basis of interreligious dialogue when we welcome and affirm the sacred spaces of those who we don't know well. Sharing a meal is a kind of hospitality. And in today's very divisive and troubled world, we need more people who are practicing hospitality. We need people who are citizens of the world and who are united by hospitalities because they have decided to open their heart to new ideas. They have decided to open their hearts to new people, to strangers, and to welcome them in their lives. In Islam, hospitality is actually a triangular relationship between the host, the guest, and God. And I think all three Abrahamic faiths, they have this very strong concept of welcoming the stranger, not only from perspective of welcoming the stranger in one's midst, but also from the recognition that host was also a stranger at some point in time. And our matriarch, Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, he was known for his hospitality towards his guests. He hated eating alone. He would always look for guests to welcome to his table before he would eat. His tent is said to be open from all four sides, north, south, east, and west. That reminds me actually of a book which I absolutely love and that we have studied in our interfaith dialogue called The Tent of Abraham, and how it brings hope for Jews, Christians, and Muslims in today's world. Anyways, from connections to relationships to hospitality, we need Abraham's tent today in our world. We need an open tent where everybody is welcome. Let me give you this poem from Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, and then we will go to our teacher, Dr. McDaniels. The name of the poem is I Have Come to Shine. And Maulana says, I have come to take you by your hand and bring you to myself. I have come to take you by my hand and by your hand and bring you to myself. I have come to shine your way as you walk this path. I will make you guiltless. I will make you fearless. Then I will place you in the brightest point in the universe. I have come like a breeze of spring to you. I have come like a breeze of spring to your field of flowers, so I can hold you by my side and embrace you tight. I have come to take you by your hand and bring you to myself. I have come to shine your way as you walk this path. Like the cry of lovers, I will help you reach the roof of heavens. From the dust of the earth to a human being, there are 1,000 steps. From the dust of the earth to the human being, there are 1,000 steps. I have been with you through these steps. I have held your hand and walked by your side, and I will be with you as you move beyond this human form and soar to the highest heavens. I have come to take you by your hand and bring you to myself. I have come to shine your way as you walk this path. To you, Jay. You are on mute, Jay.
I tell this story so many times that I can't remember whether I've told you. So as I begin to tell this story, if you say, Jay, you've already told that story, raise your hand, okay? I have to put my glasses on to see if anybody raises their hand. So when I went to seminary many years ago, I was the English teacher for a Zen Buddhist priest. And he was from Japan, and he had attained the Enlightenment experience. And so his master had sent him to the United States to complete his experience by immersing himself in a foreign country. And I was asked to be his English teacher. Now, no one's raising their hand quite yet, so I think I'm okay. So I remember the first day that I met him. My teacher called me and she said, he's here, he's come from Kyoto, go introduce yourself. So I went to where he was staying. This was in Claremont, California. And I knocked on the door, and the door opened, and there he was. Shaved head, black robe, gleam in his eye. He looked like a Zen priest to me. And there I was. Long hair, t-shirt, cutoffs. I looked like a graduate student to him. And I'd been taught that in Japan they bow, and he'd been taught that in the United States they shake hands. So before saying anything, I bowed and he put his hand out. And so our first encounter was his hand against my forehead. And what I remember is that he laughed. He laughed. And I remember thinking to myself, you're a Zen Buddhist. You've had the Enlightenment experience. You don't laugh, you're very serious. But he laughed, and I realized I had a lot to learn. So we walked into this room, and we sat down, and he said to me, would you like some coffee? And I said, you're speaking English? And he said, yes, I've had 6 years of English. I'm here to brush up. And I said, yes, I'll take some coffee. He went to get the coffee. And I thought, what am I going to talk to him about? He came back, he sat down. And at first I thought, well, I should small talk. So I said, how was your trip? And he said, fine, thank you. It had been building up in me. What was this Enlightenment experience that he'd had? So I leaned over and looked him in the eye, and I said to him, tell me, what do you know that I don't? Now, I don't recommend that as a good icebreaker, but it had been building up. And without one moment's hesitation, he said, I know that I am you, and you are me too, but you don't know that. I know that I am you, and you are me too, but you don't know that. He was right. He was right that, like you, I've been conditioned to think of myself as a skin-encapsulated ego, cut off from the world by the boundaries of my skin. And he was basically saying, not the case. Not the case. We're parts of one another. We're unique. We're different. We don't collapse into tapioca pudding. We're not all the same, but we're parts of one another. And for him, the heart of spirituality was to know that, and then to live that. I taught him for 1 full year. We became very, very good friends. He went back to Japan. He's been a teacher ever since. He's passed now, but he used to come back to the United States once a year and visit colleges. He would visit Columbia and Harvard and Princeton, and where I taught, Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas. And he'd give talks, and he'd introduce meditation, do a calligraphy demonstration. And every time he came, I was so nervous. I was nervous because I wanted him to have a good time. So I was an anxious presence. Here comes February. Roshi Fukushima is coming to town. He's going to stay here for 1 week. I want him to have a good time. I want him everything to go well. And he sensed that. He came probably 6 or 7 times, 6 years in a row. And so he would make calligraphy for me, but he'd always make it for me personally. He wanted to send me a spiritual message. And so 1 year he made calligraphy for me, and I couldn't read it because I couldn't read the Japanese, but he would tell me what it says. So 1 year he made calligraphy for me, and I said, "What does that say, Roshi?" And he said, "It says, no host, no guest. No host, no guest." And what he was trying to say, that the very categories, even thinking in those terms, can miss the point. Can miss the point. We're together. We're different, and we're together. Now, I always have to introduce a little process theology because I think that's what I'm supposed to do. In process theology, even the mind of the universe, even God, can say, "I am you, and you are me." And even the mind of the universe can say, "No host, no guest." No need to get trapped in the categories of the mind when they separate us from one another. I myself, once a week, twice a week, go and do sing-along music at assisted living centers, memory care units in Conway, Arkansas. I get my guitar and I go to folks with Alzheimer's and sing with them. We sing "You Are My Sunshine," "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," old Elvis songs, "Can't Help Falling in Love." No host, no guest. No host, no guest. We're just together. In Christianity, that's Holy Communion. It happens anywhere where there's no host, no guest. Okay, there we go. Deb.
Well, I had a different take on no host, no guest. that if you have no host, you have no guest. We need each other. If you don't have a guest, you don't have a host.
Deb, where are you still there?
Yeah.
If he were here, I would ask him to respond. But he's not. I think we'll just need to leave it at that. Leave it at that. I think he would be happy that there could be divergent interpretations of that sentence. There's no problem. Anybody else a comment? I think our theme is hospitality and connection. Alid. And then Kathleen. I don't think we can hear you. No. Oh, I'm so sorry. Put it in chat.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got it.
Yes.
We got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like I'm back in the 60s because I'm sitting there listening to Sophia's poem and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that one, the one that's your favorite. I am he as you are me, and we are all together. I am the walrus, the Beatles sang. And before that, many times, many lessons before that, you did the guest house. And the guest house, of course, is Coldplay. Coldplay. So I realized all these people have been reading your blessed Rumi over and over and over. It's just wonderful, right? Because music is part of my life. And I wish Dan would put on music instead of sitting there fretting about being in a meeting. Anyway, that's it. I am he as you are me, and we're all together. I think that's what we've been saying. And that's I Am the Walrus by the Beatles. Did you know that? It just came to me now.
I did, Elite. Actually, Rumi also has the honor of being part of a lot of songs in the music
Yes.
industry around the world, actually. Not
I'm
only
learning this. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful, wonderful. And in Italian, we have mille grazie. When we're saying thank you to someone, talking about gratitude and grace. Mille grazie, a million graces to you, is what we say when we say thank you. So there you go. That's enough now.
I'm kind of wishing we could just sing some Beatles songs now. Kathleen.
I really don't have too much to say except that sometimes, and I'm trying to think of a specific experience where this happened to me. I just know that it has. Is sometimes the person who's the host ends up being the guest of the person who's, you invite someone who you think they're the guest, but the way they invite you into something, you end up being a guest. I guess it's what we're saying, but I feel like this whole space, that everything that's been happening here from the beginning is the creation of a hospitable space for us all. And just thank you. That's all. I think that's where people can feel safe at, but also take risks to grow. So there's a philosopher I like that I read his stuff, and Aaron Simmons, and who puts three things together: humility, hospitality, and gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just seeing that reflected in all of what we're doing. So
we might want to reflect a little bit on the role of listening in hospitality. Sometimes people they need to tell their stories. They need to share their life experience. They need to feel understood. And it's not just sharing the suffering, it's sharing the joy. It's so if you ask somebody, tell me about your grandmother, I'll listen. So I think the role of listening in hospitality is extremely important. Sophia, tell me about your grandmother.
By the way, Jay, you'll be happy to know that L for listening is our spiritual practice for next.
Okay.
So we will be talking about listening a lot next week. And I'm glad that Ali brought about guest house. I wrote it down for this week, but I didn't read it because we have read it before. But I think it's Guest House, which is a poem by Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi that we have covered earlier in our session. I think it's really important reminder for us to remember that when we are practicing hospitality, we don't differentiate between who are we welcoming? Is it somebody we like or not like? Are we listening to sorrows or joys? We let our guest take charge of it because in that poem, if you remember, it said that this being human is a guest house, and every morning is a new arrival as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, and be grateful for whoever comes, because each one has been sent as a guide from beyond. Each one. So I think that's really important as a cornerstone of hospitality to be able to practice a very pluralistic hospitality, if I may say.
You know, there's a poem by Naomi Shihab Nye. She's Palestinian. And the poem is called Red Brocade. But the image, she says that the Arabs used to have a custom that if somebody comes to visit you, you don't ask the details of their life. You just welcome them in. And after about 3 days, then you can ask a question like, well, where are you from? Or and at the end of her poem, she says she puts herself inside the skin of the host. And she says, am I too busy for you? No, I'm not too busy. That's just the armor that people put on to pretend that they have a purpose in life. Here, let me snip this parsley for your tea. I'm not too busy. Here. And I think one of the messages of that poem is that compulsive busyness gets in the way of hospitality. Sophia, why don't you close us with another Rumi poem? Why don't you close us with that last one about being a mineral and a vegetable? You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, I didn't read that today. Let me actually open it up. Yes, I can definitely do that. So first, meanwhile I'm looking for it, I will say thank you to all of you for joining us. We are grateful for your presence. We're grateful for this sacred space that we all have created together. We are grateful for this interfaith community that comes together. Next week, we will be covering L for listening and also S for silence. And let me close this place, close our space today with Maulana's poem and that Jay wants me to read. And the poem is about connections. And Maulana says, I died to the mineral state and became a plant. I died to the mineral state and became a plant. I died to the vegetal state and reached animality. I died to the animal state and became a man. Then what should I fear? I have never become less from dying. At the next charge, I will die to human nature. At the next exchange, I will die to the human nature, so I may lift up my head and my wings and soar among angels. I must also jump from the river of the state of the angels. Remember, everything perishes except for his face. Once again, I will become sacrificed from the state of the angels, and I will become that which cannot come into the imagination. I will become non-existent, and non-existence says to me, like an organ, truly, to him we return. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. That's an Arabic phrase. Truly, to him we return. Maulana Rumi took that phrase, Arabic phrase, and translated it. But with that, we close our today's session. Peace, salam, and shalom to all of you, and good night.